Hello, my name is Andrea Gaughan and I'm a knitwear designer based in Asheville, North Carolina, and you are watching my knitting podcast called Knitwear Design Diaries, where I come to you about once a month and let you know what I've been working on. And today I have to share with you, I think this is right, 2 finished objects, one of which I'm wearing, and 2 new whips. And I have a very exciting knit along that I'm going to be sharing information with you all about. That is for this tee I'm wearing. But before we get into all that, I want to announce the winner of the giveaway I had last month. So if you did not see last month's episode, I think it was just after the holidays, Pearl Soho had sent me a very cute little gift in the mail for that, I guess just because I had signed up for their affiliate list, but I have not yet done any actual affiliate marketing with them. But I like using their yarn. I've used it in previous designs. I plan to use it in the future, so I just signed up when I saw that they had that. And so anyway, they sent me some beautiful yarn and also a very cute little... It lives on my desk, so it's behind the camera. A very, very sweet and cute little alpaca friend. So, the alpaca friend is mine forever and I'm keeping it, but the yarn I decided to make into a giveaway. So it was 3 skeins of their paintbrush mohair base, which is a mix of mohair and Pima cotton, which I have only ever used mohair mixed with silk. So I thought that was very interesting. Vegan alternative if you are someone who does not like to work with silk. And it's a worsted Aran to chunky weight, so it's much thicker than a standard lace weight mohair. Or at least that's what seems standard to me. That's what I've used most in the past. But it's this beautiful, beautiful lilac purple color. It's called Lilac Mauve. Very gorgeous, but I'm just not a big pastel girly. And I just thought I would probably let these sit in my stash and not get around to ever using them. So I decided to make it into a little giveaway. And I'm excited to announce that the winner of that is Decompressed Tiff. So congratulations. I will be mailing these to you. I'll get in contact with you to make sure I get a good mailing address, and then I'll get these sent over to you as soon as I have that. So congratulations, and thank you so much to everyone who entered into that last time and shared what you thought that yarn would make a good project for. I heard lots of answers for cowls or scarves, like especially those little mini scarves that are very popular, or doing a hood, or some people said a vest, or also marling, which if you follow Knitting for Olive's Instagram account, they've been doing a lot of really cool swatches of marling, one color of mohair with a different color base yarn to get a nice marl effect. So I'm very excited to see what you end up doing with this Decompressed Tiff. I hope you enjoy. Okay, so the first design I want to talk about today is my Bloodroot Tee. This is the second version of this design I've made, so I have talked about it some in the past, but I do want to talk about this sample because it was on my needles last time, but is now finished. And I'll put in a picture of me wearing my original sample. It is here. I did a few differences with the striped version. I had previously worked a quarter length sleeve. I don't know that that's really a real name of a sleeve, but they're both short sleeves, so just to differentiate between the 2 short sleeve lengths, I called this sleeve length quarter length and this sleeve length cap sleeve. Probably if you're being most technical, cap sleeve would be if you didn't work any distance at all. But I picked up at the underarm and worked just a ½ inch. So this is pretty much cap sleeve. I know sometimes a cap sleeve would be like even higher up, but as you can see in the photo, this hits much further down in the arm. And then the other difference is that I worked this to what I called a standard length, which is 2 inches longer than what I worked this sample to, which I called the cropped length, but it is extremely easy to modify the body to your preferred length. And for both, I worked waist shaping, which hopefully you can see that there. And really the main difference for me of why I wanted to work the bodies to different lengths is that I wanted this one to be long enough that I could tuck it into high-waisted pants, which is, I think, every single pair of pants I have is high-waisted. So you can see in the photo, it tucks in nicely, and then wearing a belt helps keep it locked in, which is very nice. But it's easy to knit it to any length you want, so even though I have 2 lengths, standard and cropped in the pattern, super easy to knit it to the exact length you want. And same with the sleeves. I actually had a tester knit full-length sleeves, which turned out very cute, like a fitted full-length sleeve. And I had another tester do like a below the elbow sleeve. And so the tester showcase is going to be out later today. I'll link that below as soon as it's live. If you're watching this video as soon as it comes out, that might not be there yet, but it will be out very soon. I was just putting the finishing touches on that before filming this. And anyway, the tester showcase, if you're not familiar with it, is something I do with every release I put out. I make a blog post on my website that has detailed information about each tester's project. And generally I try to encourage the testers to knit the pattern as close as possible to the original version. Just so that the original version is what's being tested, because if you change too many things at once, then the original version is not actually being tested. But things I always let testers modify is sleeve length and body length, because I tend to explicitly say in my pattern, work to X length or your preferred length. And then I have testers allowed to make other modifications. I just ask that they check with me to make sure it's not like drastically changing the pattern. But I love, love, love when people modify a pattern of mine when they're knitting it on their own. It's just that for specifically the test knit process, if it's so heavily modified that the original pattern isn't actually being tested, then I'm not actually getting the feedback on the written instructions that I need. Hope that makes sense. So tester showcase is always great to look at, but particularly for this top, it's really great to look at the various sleeve lengths testers did, and also body lengths, because people did a pretty wide range. Some people cropped it even more than I did. Some people did it even longer and wore it like not tucked in. Yeah. So very, very happy with that. So a main thing I want to talk about with this is that we are having a knit along that is going along with the release. So the release is this Friday, March 27th, and the knit along begins the same day. And I'm crossing my fingers. I've done knit alongs for a couple of patterns I've released. I'm hoping that this is going to be the biggest one yet, because I've had a lot of interest on Instagram when I posted about it. But of course, I can't always know how people expressing interest is going to translate to who actually shows up and gets in the chat, but it sounds like we're going to have a really big, nice group of people all knitting this pattern along together, which I'm really, really excited about. So, as I said, I wrote down the details just to make sure I got them right. But everything I'm saying about the knit along and more is included in a info page that I've put together through Notion. That's just like a document with all the information about the knit along listed in one place, and you can find that linked below. And you can just like go ahead and bookmark that if you want to participate in the knit along, and then if you ever need to refer back to any details, it's collected all in one spot. So it begins this Friday, March 27th, and then it is going to go for a total of 10 weeks ending on Friday, June 5th. So through all of April, through all of May, and then into the very beginning of June. So 10 weeks is the exact same length that I made my test knit, and I got a good amount of feedback from testers that that was a good length for them to be able to complete their tee without feeling too rushed, and in addition to having other commitments. So I'm hoping that will seem like a really good length of time for the knit along as well. And it is not at all required to finish your tee during the knit along, but finishing your tee will make you eligible for certain prizes. So I will get right into that. The prizes are going to be both free patterns and Yarn Shop gift cards. And I've done this the past couple times, and do it again. There's going to be a weekly prize of a free pattern of mine where just anyone who posts in the chat with any kind of update, whether it's swatching or progress photo or anything like that, I'm going to just randomly select one person who shared some kind of progress update that week, and they'll win a free pattern, and I will announce that on a weekly basis. And part of my motivation for that is because it's fun to have the prizes at the end, but when I'd ask people what they like about a knit along, people said they like that because 10 weeks is a very long time. It can feel like a long time, so I think it's fun to have some prizes going out along the way. And then it's also an incentive for people to keep checking in. You absolutely do not have to put a progress update every single week, but if you want to, that's a little bonus. And then whenever you do a progress update, you know, you get entered that week. And yeah, so that's going to be a total of 10 free patterns because of the 10 weeks. And then the grand prizes are at the end of the knit along. Everyone who finishes their tee will fill out a form, just so I have a record of who all finished it. And then 3 people will be randomly selected who finish their tee and will win one of 3 prizes. The grand prize, the number 1 prize is a $150 gift card. Number 2 prize is a $100 gift card. And the third one is a $50 gift card. So total of $300 in gift cards, $150, $150 increments. And those are just local yarn shop gift cards, which means that whoever wins can choose what yarn shop they want the gift card to be to, whether it's their actual local yarn shop that they can go in and shop in person, or it's just a favorite online shop that they like to support. And I wanted to do that to make sure people from different countries can participate, and I'm not saying, oh, the prizes are to my local yarn shop, and if you get the $50 gift card, you might have to pay $40 in shipping to get anything to you. So that way everyone who wins it can just choose wherever they like to shop for yarn and enjoy that. And I asked on Instagram when I was planning this what different people's like favorite parts of participating in a knit along were, and there was a lot of answers for fun and good prizes, active community chat and meeting other knitters, and having weekly targets or goals along the way. So that was I feel like that's a pretty good gift. So the free patterns and the yarn shop gift cards are the prizes, and hopefully you guys feel like that seems like good prizes. Of course, to me, the patterns don't actually cost anything because it's a digital download, but they're, you know, it would be $10 to buy all my garment patterns are $10, and then accessories are a bit less. So that's like $100 worth of free patterns. And then I'm sponsoring myself $300 worth of yarn shop prizes. So, okay. So plenty about prizes there. I've been mentioning the chat a lot, but I don't think I said where the chat is taking place. It is taking place on Slack, which if you've ever tested for me before, you are familiar with. It's the same Slack workspace that I use to hold my test knits, and I get really consistent feedback from testers that they really like using Slack. And I know people can be intimidated to try out a new platform, but a lot of people who had never tried it before and then do a test knit with me in Slack say that they felt it was great. Of course, maybe not 100% of people. Some people are just never gonna want to download another platform, and I get that. But I feel like compared to an Instagram, it's hard to get people really collected in one space that actually feels like a community chat. DMs would be way too crazy, and then if you're just posting on your grid and using a hashtag, well, even in the past, hashtags were not really, like, it still doesn't make that community chat aspect. And then these days, I don't know if you're aware of this, but the hashtags actually, like, basically don't work anymore, because if you click on the hashtag, it will well, who knows? Sometimes Instagram shows different things to different people, like they don't roll out updates all at once. But I know for many people, if you click on a hashtag, it shows you related content as opposed to just only posts that actually use that hashtag. So a lot of the utility of hashtags is kind of gone out the window. But in Slack, there will just be a channel that everyone who's in the testnet is in, and they can introduce themselves, talk about what their plans for testnet are, like what yarn they're going to use, if they're going to do stripes, any modifications they want to make. For the testnet, people are welcome to make any modification they want. It doesn't have the same rules as a testnet. You can go crazy with any ideas you have for modifying the pattern, and it's totally encouraged. Even if I have any, I can't like rewrite the pattern with mods for you, but if you have ideas, I can help, and you have questions about how it might work, I can try, you know, to give some guidance if that would be helpful to anyone. And then of course along the way, share progress updates and share photos of your finished top. And it's always a lot of fun in testnets and knit-alongs to get to see people working on it throughout. And I think it helps keep a lot of people motivated to keep working on the project, to see how other people's projects are turning out, especially people who might be just like one step ahead of them. Okay, so give Slack a try. There's a chat channel, and then there's just going to be one other channel, which is where I will post information and announcements. So it's, once you get into my group, there's just 2 channels. They're public. They should be basically the only public channels, because I usually have a lot of channels going in my Slack group, but most of them are private testnets. So yeah, the link to the Slack group will be posted as soon as the pattern goes live on Friday. So I think I have a spot for where that will be in that knit along info page I told you about. But a direct link to the chat will be provided as soon as the pattern goes live. But you can just join my Slack group. It's just called Andragon Knits. I think you can just look it up, or Slack/Andragon Knits. If you were eager to just get in my Slack group and waiting in there, I think it's just public to join. But anyway, you don't need to worry about that until the pattern actually comes out. Okay, let's see. I feel like I've been talking about this for a long time already, so I'm gonna try to wrap it up. But the last thing I want to say is that a lot of people said they like having weekly targets or weekly goals. So I put together a list for all 10 weeks of the knit along, the weekly target. And the weekly targets are 100% optional, so you can knit at any pace you want. You do not have to meet these. But if you like guidelines, if you like schedules, if you like feeling like you can check a box each week, this is for you, and hopefully that can help people feel motivated and help people feel confident that they'll be able to finish in the 10-week period. And yeah, those will just be posted in Slack. I'll have all 10 goals available, ready for people to look at if they want to kind of envision how it's going to go. And then each week I'll say, this is this week's weekly target, and you know, people can share when they hit it. And again, totally optional. You could knit your tee in 2 weeks. You could cast on the last 2 weeks and knit it. You could cast on, knit it a tiny bit, never finish it. It's totally fine. The yarn shop gift card prizes are for people who finish, but it's totally fine to participate and not finish. The only difference is that you just want to get in the pool for the drawing for those prizes. Okay. Last time I recorded for way longer than I meant to, so I have a timer going, and I see that I'm already at like 20 minutes. So I was gonna try to be aiming for my podcast around like 40 or 45 minutes, because that seems like enough time that I can get into some details, you know, not kind of skim over things. But also last time I went well over an hour, and it gets to be a lot. So we're gonna say maybe this is around the halfway mark. So I'm gonna wrap up talking about Bloodroot, and I'm gonna do a last mention. So I talked quite a bit on the podcast about the construction method for this tee, which is called simultaneous set in sleeves. A bit of a tongue twister, but I just yesterday put an Instagram carousel together that has visualizations of how exactly that process works with progress pics I took along the way knitting this, and those progress pics are also in the actual pattern to help you out, so you can kind of see what's going on. So if you're interested, if you had heard me talking about that before, or you're just kind of like, I'm interested, I'll link the Instagram post I just did on that, but I don't want to get too into that today because I know I have already talked about this construction method on previous podcast episodes. Okay, so we're gonna wrap it up on Bloodroot Tee and talk about my other finished object that I have to share with you today, which, like this tee, was also a whip last time I filmed. And this is my Kingfisher Tee. So we got 2 tees in a row here, which a little hooks in there. I have some stuff hung on. I believe I've only released 1 tee pattern before, but I get a lot of wear out of it. So I think that just for me to wear a hand knit tee, it needs to be lightweight, like fingering weight like this, or sport weight in a specific case like this if it's kind of loose and open. And I don't think I would find anything heavier than a sport weight tee very practical. And it can take some time to knit a fingering weight or sport weight tee. Just more so, like I feel like it can take just as much time to knit a fingering weight tee as a worsted weight sweater. But of course, that depends on so many factors, but I'm thinking I want to do more tees. Well, one of my cast-ons is a tee, but I'm thinking tees might have a more representation in my future designs than they have in the past. I've been very sweater heavy and tank top heavy, but I really like the in-between of tees. So I'm not gonna try this on. I feel like I'm just not ready today for all the taken on, taken offs, but I do have a modeled photo of this that I just took a quick photo for the Testicle. So this is my Kingfisher Tee. It was hung up, so it's a little folded, but I'm so happy with how this turned out. It's a very boxy lace tee that has these open columns of lace stitches. And something I think is really cool about how open this is that it really shows what's underneath it. And sometimes with lace patterns, I'll try to just wear like a beige bralette or something underneath it to kind of make it look invisible underneath. But I'm actually excited to style this with more bold things underneath, like a bright colored tank, or like a black, I have like a black plunge v-neck bralette thing that I think would look really cool underneath it because it's like a very graphic shape. I'm kind of thinking that's what I'll do for the release photos. And then of course, classic thing that a lace tee like this would be great for is wearing over a bathing suit in the summer, and then you can kind of get a peek through at the bathing suit. So this is knit top down with shoulder shaping, if you can see that, short row shoulder shaping in the back here, and then the front and back lace columns meet up really beautifully, in my opinion, at that shoulder seam. So that shoulder seam, like this one, sits kind of to the back when worn, and then it has a loose hanging sleeve, and then just really simple twisted rib finishing everywhere. And this is knit up in Kelbourne Woolens Mojave, which is a cotton linen blend that I feel like I had bought some of that just with no project in mind, just interested in it, like years and years ago. And I've since used a ton of several other Kelbourne Woolens yarns. Love them, they're sweethearts. But this is my first time ever actually knitting something up with Mojave, which I feel like is crazy. I think that's one of their most popular yarns, as in, it's the yarn I've seen most of theirs, like when I go to yarn shops, is frequently stocked places. So hopefully this yarn being widely available, very popular, will be good. I know especially with some summer yarns, it can be a bit harder to source summer yarns, but this seems like a really widely available summer yarn, and I can now confidently say that it's wonderful to knit with and wonderful to wear. It makes a really soft, drapey, like kind of favorite worn t-shirt feel, which I really like. What else do I want to say about this? So this test knit is already underway, and the release for Kingfisher is going to be not next month, but the month after that, so in May. This pattern will be released in May, which hopefully be a great time for getting into good summer knitting. I actually have a tank top coming out in April, and then this tee coming out in May. And I've been trying really hard to have my patterns come out at a seasonally appropriate time, to have them come out at a time where people are excited about knitting that type of garment. But this one was taking me, I did quite a bit of frogging. I was having some elbow pain. It was a whole thing. Basically, 2 winters ago, I had injured my elbow doing way too much tiny little stitches on plant fibers, and doing way too many hours of knitting, not taking breaks, and it had generally been fine, but I've been doing a lot of knitting on this and some other more complex projects and kind of re-aggravated that, and I just had to put it aside for a moment. And I also did some frogging to improve the fit and get it to a point where I was really happy with. But all that resulted in the tank top and the tee being swapped. So ideally, in my ideal world, this would have come out in April and the tank top would come out in May. But hopefully that will still be okay. I still think they're both reasonably so seasonally appropriate, but I was hoping to have the perfect like sweaters in the winter, a cardigan in February, tees in March and April, tank tops in May and beyond. So we're almost on track to that ideal flow of pattern releases. Yeah, the test for this is underway. I'm very excited about the wide range of beautiful colors folks are knitting this up in, as well as seeing what it's looking like knit up in other yarns. So once this gets closer to the release, I will have the tester showcase out, and I'm going to be very I'm always excited about the tester showcases, but I'm particularly excited about this one to see the range of different yarns people use, because with some like a cotton linen blend has a very certain effect to it, in how it wears and how the stitch pattern feels. So it'll be really interesting to see how the drape and the look of the stitch pattern is in other yarns. Okay, so those are my 2 new finished objects since last month. 2 tees. And I'm gonna get into talking about my whip. So I believe these are totally new things in terms of what I have previously shared on this podcast. And this one I've been knitting up pretty quickly here. I think I just cast it on like towards the end of last week. I don't know how clearly visible it's going to be from like how it's on my needles, but I will do my best to try to show this off to you. So first I will show you what yarn I am using. So I'm using the Wandering Flux Cotton Lino, which I absolutely love. I used this yarn last year for my Mountain Laurel top. So it really shows off texture absolutely beautifully. This is a tank top with lace and cables, and you can see just that stitch definition, and the sheen is really beautiful. So I was very eager to use this yarn again this summer, and I just, if you can't tell, I love this color. My phone case is like actually basically pretty close to this exact color. I mean, this is a more red, but still this is a very similar color family to the red I knit Bloodroot Tee in, And then also, I've just been noticing I'll be like at a cafe and I'll have my phone, my whip, and my notebook out. And my 2026 notebook I got is also like an orange red. So I'll have all these out and be like, oh, I probably look like one of those people who need everything in the same color. But just a color I'm feeling right now. I always love red, and I love, you know, kind of getting into different shades of red. I've done a lot of like rusty red stuff in the future, in the past. And I've done some like bright red. So I'm really liking this orangey red. Which this is like I would say it's called Poppy. I would say it's like a orangey pink red. I would say a coral, like a very red coral. Oh yeah, let me tell you what all is in this yarn, because it is a lot of different things. So it is 35% organic cotton, 30% mulberry silk, which gives it that lovely sheen that I showed you, 20% linen, and 15% baby alpaca. So cotton, silk, linen, and alpaca all together. And they just did an excellent job with this blend. It is so soft and luxurious. It's great drape, great stitch definition. I'm a huge fan. Okay. So the project that I am working on with this is worked in half brioche. It's all scrunched up on my needles. There's lots of yarn ends, but I'll try to show it off to you best I can. So this is worked in half brioche for a very, it feels so nice. I wish you could squish it. A very squishy, nice texture. But when this yarn blocks, the half brioche will open up a lot more. So I feel like it's going to be a perfect mix of like squishy but still drapey at the same time, as opposed to a brioche in just wool would be like very squishy and not drapey at all. And then, so this is the front and the back, and they are identical, and it is going to sit right around here. And then this is underarm shaping, and then I've started the body. The body's all scrunched up so it looks small, but it will fit. And then I'm going to line the underarms with I-cord edgings, and then do I-cord straps where you cast on a I-cord, knit applied I-cord, and then knit more I-cord, and do that in both the front and back. And then you're going to take those long I-cord straps and tie them in cute little bows at the shoulder. So it's going to be very like feminine, cutesy kind of details, which is not something I like super strongly tend to go for, but I really love with bows for straps, the practicality of how easily adjustable the height of the top is, particularly because in the past I have knit tank tops that have I-cord straps, and even more than like a knitted stockinette strap, they'll stretch out a lot over time, and then the top, like either you're kind of always pulling it up or it ends up way more low cut than you initially wanted. So you guys, if you know anything about me, I love a detail that's functional and cute, so I feel like bow tie straps are right in the sweet spot for me. So I'm very excited about that, and I also just love I-cords. I think they make a really neat finishing. They can be time consuming for sure, but I think it's totally worth it for how nice they look. And I think it will be a nice complement to the texture of this. So you cannot really tell at all, but I have increases worked in the body. Can you see that? So I just have 2 sets so far, but the sides are actually going to be increased so that it flares out, and it's going to start off fitted and then flare out so that it will be more flowy and drapey and a sort of a A-line fit. And I have a thrifted top that I'm very loosely using as a model for the shape. It is definitely not going to be exactly like this. But I like if I'm doing something, like I've never done something with A-line shaping before, to have a garment that I like the fit of, to use as at least a jumping off point, because it's really hard to be like, okay, I want the bust to be fitted. So I think I have -2 inches of ease. And I'm very used to knowing how much ease I want at the bust. But to say how much waist shaping is appropriate, like, should I add 4 inches? Should I add 8 inches? Should I add 12 inches? Should I add 16? You know, if you don't have any kind of reference, like, there's such a huge range of knowing how much that flare should be that would like feel appropriate. So this is a completely different fabric. It has a scoopy neckline. It has a lower back, but it's a kind of similar type of deal. It's, I think, just from like Target or something. Yeah, I think this is a Target brand. But anyway, I just thrifted this a while ago, and it has this kind of A-line shaping. And so I used the circumference of the bottom of this as a reference. So it's not going to be super extreme, but just a bit of little extra fabric. So it has a nice like flowy drape. And this also does have the bow ties, which is perfect. Yeah, but I think since the weight of that fabric is very, very lightweight, and this is going to be a heavier, denser fabric because of the stitch texture and just the weight of the yarn, I think there will be a lot more weight pooling down, and I hope that will kind of help it lay nicely instead of like wanting to actually flare out when worn. When that one kind of actually like, it goes out when worn. This will, I think, hang straight down, but have like ruffles of extra fabric. So that's the vision. And then check back next month because I should absolutely have this ready by then. Finished, ready to show off to you. And if you are interested in the possibility of test knitting this, be sure you sign up for my email newsletter. I will link that below. It's always linked below my podcast, because I'm always referring people to it. So that is the best way to hear about test knits as soon as they are announced, and also to hear about all new releases as soon as they come out. So if you are interested in ever test knitting or knitting any of my designs, I strongly recommend signing up for my newsletter. I'm not sending out emails all the time. Probably on average, like about twice a month, like one test call, one release, and then occasionally, like twice a year, I'll have a pattern sale on all my patterns, and I'll send out an email about that as well. But I'm not spamming your inbox. I do not send out tons of emails. Okay, very excited about that, and hopefully I will have a complete garment to show you next time. So the last whip I want to show you barely looks like anything at the moment, but I am extremely, extremely excited about it. And I hope you all will be too, because I'll tell you why in a second. But let me start out with what the yarn I'm using is. So this is a new to me yarn, another summer yarn, and it is Gepard. That's my guess at the pronunciation. Wild and Soft, which is 40% wild tussa silk and 60% merino. And is in this gorgeous red color, more red. And it's almost a tiny bit purpley leaning, I would say, like a maroon burgundy leaning a little bit. And the color is called Red Panda. And I think it's so pretty with a little bit of a sheen it has from the silk. But I don't know, I've knit with silk sometimes. I'm kind of feeling at the moment like I prefer silk blended in with other things, and I'm not sure how much I'm interested in working with 100% silk blend. So this is really cool. It's a full 40% silk, but it still has the lovely, beautiful attributes of wool, which are my favorite. My favorite is always going to be wool. So I feel like wool blends are like the perfect sweet spot if you get some of the great attributes of other fibers besides wool while keeping the great parts of wool. So I found out about this yarn and decided to try it because Ritual Dyes recently started stocking it. And I love, love, love all of Ritual Dyes' yarns. And then they also stock other yarns that I use on a regular basis, particularly yarns from international companies that I will order from them because to avoid international shipping. Like I think they carry Durum Natura. I think they carry Knitting for Olive. Mostly Durum Natura. I know I've ordered from them before. Yeah, so, and last year I had the opportunity to go into their shop for the first time when I was visiting a friend in Portland, and we went together to Sacred Sheep. She is also a knitter, and we went to Ritual Dyes' shop, and it's so cute and curated. But clearly the folks there have a great eye for yarn, and so I kind of keep an eye on what yarn they stock. Oh, I got some Sandnes Garn while I was there, which is another brand I'm very interested in using, but I have never knit something like a full garment in that yet. I have just swatched in a couple Sandnes Garn pieces. So, but anyway, clearly they're bringing yarns into their shop that are really nice to work with. Particularly some of these like Sandnes Garn and this yarn, I feel like are at a great price point for like a basically luxury yarn, but at a reasonable price to get a garment's worth. So yeah, I don't think I would have just randomly ordered this if I saw it somewhere else, but since I saw that Ritual Dyes was stocking it, I was like, you know, I bet that's a really good yarn. I bet they know what they're doing bringing that in. So, and I have been thrilled with swatching with this and starting my project, which so far all I have, I've completely written the instructions, but all I've cast on is the teeny little portion of back shoulder shaping in stockinette. Here's the little shoulder shaping part. So it does not look like much, but what this is the beginnings of is another tee with the same simultaneous set and sleeve construction as this tee, but it's going to be a relaxed stockinette tee instead. And the reason I say I hope you all are excited about this is because in the post I just shared about this construction method, I had people say, oh, do you have any other patterns with this construction method? Like a fitted tee isn't for me, but I really want to try it out. And things along those lines, are just not wanting to knit all over rib, which of course I love this, but I can see not everyone likes fitted garments. So this is going to be honestly a bit along the lines of my released tee, Sunshine Tee, if you are familiar with that. It's one of my most popular patterns. But Sunshine Tee is kind of bordering on a baby tee fit. It has like little cap sleeves, a not too wide of a shoulder width, and it's pretty fitted. I knit both of my samples cropped. And this is going to be a more relaxed fit, a bit more wider shoulders, a bit longer sleeves, not cropped, a bit more ease. So just similar kind of deal to Sunshine Tee, but more relaxed. And I think that will go really, really well with this silk merino blend, that the silk in a relaxed tee will make it feel very elegant and drapey and nice. And I'm gonna do, my plan at the moment is to do similar edgings, like double knit edgings as Sunshine Tee, but use the construction of this tee, which is the simultaneous set and sleeve. So again, this well, I don't know. We'll see if this gets finished by next month. I hope it is. I hope this will be finished next time I show you, but it will at least be a lot more looking like a tee and not a teeny little scrap of fabric. And then my dream and hope, as long as I have enough time, is to do the same thing that I did with this tee, which is start the test knit after I finish this solid version, and then I want to knit a striped version during the test knit, so that when it's released I can have examples of the tee in solid color and in stripes. And one of the things about this continuous set and sleeve, see now several people were asking me like, is contiguous set and sleeve the same as seamless? See, this is great. I'm about to wrap up, but I'm losing my words here. Okay. This is simultaneous set and sleeves. And the simultaneous is sometimes replaced with contiguous, continuous, and all this means the sleeve and the body are knit at the same time. Simultaneously, continuously, contiguously. Anyway, but anyway, doing that means that the stripe can go in a smooth line right from the sleeve into the body, because just like a raglan, they're being knit at the exact same time. Whereas if you have a set-in sleeve that's being worked with short rows or seamed in, and you do stripes on the two halves, they're not gonna line up perfectly. And you know, this is not horrible, but I think it's just a nice, beautiful detail to have those stripes that wrap around perfectly. So I'm gonna plan on doing like a much bigger, bolder stripe sequence, and I'm thinking white, purple, and brown, because that is some, I was just looking through the color options for this yarn, and that's what I'm thinking. So stay tuned to see more of this and more of this. If you're not already, be sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel. I'm only putting out videos once a month right now, so that's a great way to make sure you see when that next one comes out. And thank you so much for hanging out with me and listening to me talk about the things I've been knitting on and the designs I've been working on. And I really, really hope that you want to join us for the Bloodroot knit along. Once again, info about that is linked in the description. All right, well, thank you so much. I'll see you next month. Happy knitting. Bye.